Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Wednesday night Sarcasm and Liberty live stream. I am your host, Mike Ursery, aka the Liberty Ginger. Very small panel tonight. We don't have all the usual suspects. We have the paleo libertarian, just as paleo as ever. And we have Sarcasm and Liberty's own meme master, Michael. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
How are we doing?
Good, good.
I am doing great. We started a little late tonight. We were 2 minutes late. We apologize for that. We were kind of doing some last minute housekeeping before we went live. So
I was doing some last minute burger eating.
Last minute burger eating too. That's important.
Yep.
So as of now, the 9th seat on the Supreme Court is still vacant. It has not been filled yet. The ongoing Brett Kavanaugh saga is still that ongoing. First off, does it feel like this is never going to end? I mean, does it just seem like it's just going to keep going and going and going?
Yeah, it feels that way. And do you realize that he is under FBI investigation number 7?
Yes, this is the 7th time.
This is not the first, not the second, not the third. This is the 7th FBI investigation into this. I mean, if they haven't found anything by now, then they're either extremely incompetent, or he is just a mastermind of hiding things, or there's nothing there.
One of 3 possibilities.
So
I guess they have until Friday. Last week, Jeff Flake was the deciding vote on the Senate Judiciary Committee to move the confirmation vote to the Senate floor. And he basically said that he would vote yes to send it to the floor, but as long as there was a week-long FBI investigation. And that started Friday night. So I'm guessing by Friday, that investigation should be done.
Well, let me ask you this. What if this is just all distraction to get people not to realize that this guy has no respect for the Fourth Amendment and he will basically spy on you because you bought the wrong kind of toilet paper and you might be an Al-Qaeda supporter?
It's interesting. Before this allegation came to light, all the talk from the left about why Kavanaugh should not be confirmed was not it. There was no mention of the Fourth Amendment at all. I mean, the right was saying confirm Kavanaugh. The left was saying don't confirm Kavanaugh. Libertarians were saying don't confirm Kavanaugh, and here's why. And it's because of his opinions on the Fourth Amendment. It's because of he wrote the Patriot Act. It's because of his opinions on things like torture. The left was saying don't confirm Kavanaugh because he's going to overturn Roe v. Wade and he's going to set women's reproductive rights back 247 years or however long. But from the 2 major parties and their voters, no mention of the Fourth Amendment. That's very interesting. Right. Ever since this allegation came to light, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and now it's become a left versus right thing, and nobody even cares anymore about the fact that this guy doesn't care about your privacy. And so it's very tribal, it's very partisan, and it's so out of control. And it's like the Democrats are throwing everything up against the wall to see what sticks. Started with, okay, well, he groped somebody, to he was part of a rape gang, to, well, he was a raging alcoholic, to now let's just throw everything that's possible that we can come up with. And this attorney, what's his name, Avante?
Avenatti?
Avenatti,
that guy? It. Oh yeah. My gosh, that guy, yes.
The new witnesses he's bringing forth have the most ridiculous stories. And I said from the beginning, I didn't believe Ford and what she was saying. And since her testimony, they have torn apart everything that she said, from the fact that she can't remember who drove her home after that her fear of flying was pure nonsense, that the second front door on her house was actually installed 4 years before the therapy session where she was saying that she was claustrophobic. I mean, there's just nothing that she has said that's been able to be corroborated, along with the fact that the people that she said were at this so-called gathering when he apparently tried to grope her. None of these people have come forward to confirm her story, and I don't know why. Even the LP came out on Twitter days ago saying that she was a credible witness. What makes her credible? That's the thing I don't understand. Just because she's a woman, or because she's out here saying that something happened, and now we have this hashtag of believe women, believe survivors. Okay, well, you know what? I will believe a survivor that's an actual survivor. Um, Myself being the victim of a violent crime, I can tell you where it happened, when it happened, what I was wearing, what the other person was wearing, what happened, from the time the assault began until it ended. I can tell you how I got home, how I got to the hospital. I can tell you everything about that incident, everything about that night. And for someone to say, well, some details are just not there, and I remember some of it, but not all of it. I'm sorry, I don't believe that. I believe it's crap. And real victims of assault and real victims of abuse pretty much have said the same thing, that if she actually went through something like this, then more details would have come forward, and you would know who drove you home that night, because that person would be a hero. You would have, had this manifest at some point where, when Romney was talking about possibly naming Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court when he was running for president in 2012. Why didn't she say anything at that point? When his name has popped up in the media before now, why didn't she say anything before then? How come her ex-boyfriend has come forward now saying that he doesn't believe anything that she said? So where is her credibility? I mean, just because she said something doesn't make her credible. And that's one thing that it really hurts real victims, is the fact that when someone is actually a victim of something now, they're going to be overly scrutinized. And I think that's a huge problem.
Yeah, and to go back on what you said about you remembering everything on the incident that happened to you. I mean, sometimes that happens, but there is a lot of subconscious things where people block out certain traumatic events, but that also doesn't make lying and making shit up impossible. So it's like you kind of got to like judge each situation by how fishy it really sounds, and this one smells like fish.
Well, there's one thing that I can tell you is that now I'm not going to sit here and try to judge anyone's credibility, but I will throw this out. Ford and Kavanaugh both testified last Thursday, and their testimony did not change anything at all. Chuck Grassley brought in this prosecutor named Rachel Mitchell, who was there to ask Ford questions. She wrote up a memo days later. She wrote up like her own review, and she basically tore Ford's testimony apart. Now, even with that out there, that has not changed anything. If you believe Ford before she testified, you still believe Ford. If you believe Kavanaugh before he testified, you still believe Kavanaugh. That testimony did not change a single thing, and all it did was just all of the loud back and forth just got much louder, and we're still here today. But if one thing I've also noticed is that it's not so much about Ford's allegation anymore. Now the big thing is, did Brett Kavanaugh commit perjury? Did Brett Kavanaugh commit perjury during his testimony? That is, I'm not sure if you two have noticed that or not, but I've been seeing that a lot over the past 2 days. And basically, some website called currentaffairs.org put out this piece saying that Brett Kavanaugh committed perjury because whenever he said, I attended no such gathering that Ford had described, they're pretty much trying to say that the July 1st entry on his calendar with his friends all at some guy's house to drink skis, meaning they're going to drink brewskis. Basically, they're saying that Brett Kavanaugh committed perjury right there. Now they are picking apart one little statement to say that Brett Kavanaugh committed perjury. Now that doesn't mean that he committed perjury. I mean, for all I know, Kavanaugh could have meant that he did not attend the such gathering that Ford is describing, the one that she described where she was assaulted. So I'm not trying to dive too much into that, but I think that's a very weak accusation to make.
Well, it's like I said, they're throwing everything they can.
You're right.
Yeah.
You are right.
If at this point, they'd find the fucking allegation against Immanuel Kant if Trump liked them.
I think also at this point, if Kavanaugh sneezed during the hearing, they would, try to accuse him of germ warfare and spread weapons. It's absolutely insane.
It is very insane. Since you brought up Michael Avenatti had a new person come out this morning, a new client with a new statement, with a new allegation against Brett Kavanaugh. If you read the statement, it looks a lot like Julie Swetnick's statement, which came out last week. Picture it as if you have two people sitting in a classroom. One person has their homework. The other person didn't do their homework from the night before, so they say, "Hey, let me copy your homework." Okay, just change it up a little so it doesn't look like you copied. This person's statement, I don't know. The statement I saw, the name has been redacted. So I don't know who this person is, but they say that they're from South Florida. Paleo, maybe you know them. And
it's my sister.
That statement looks very much like the statement that Julie Swetnick submitted last. Well, I don't want to say submitted because I don't know if that statement has been officially submitted or not. I really think he just took a picture of it and tweeted it and just held on to it. I do know that he's been trying to get Swetnick's claim investigated by the FBI, and somebody who works for the Senate Judiciary Committee basically told him, stop emailing me, because they don't take her claim as credible at all. So
Grassley, I think.
It wasn't Grassley. It's the person that Avenatti had been emailing last week, and he was putting screenshots of those emails all over his Twitter account because Avenatti has to make everything that he does public.
Committee counsel or something.
You sound really broken.
Committee counsel, I think.
Yep, that's who it is.
Isn't that not a very good lawyer that makes everything public?
You would think, yeah.
I mean,
I think he's doing that for distraction purposes, and I think he's also doing it because he had represented Stormy Daniels when she was talking about her hush money payment and sleeping with Trump, and I think he just got a taste of the spotlight. I think he got a taste of the spotlight, and he's addicted to it, and he doesn't want to be out of it now.
Absolutely.
I think that's going on.
He doesn't care about credibility. He just cares about the fame now.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that I want to accuse someone so I can start a GoFundMe page and make $500,000 in 2 days.
All right.
Yes, Kavanaugh and Ford are
actually,
making money from GoFundMe.
And I'm like 80% on doing this. I might on election day hold up a sign saying that Elizabeth Warren showed me her penis at a frat party.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Your senator.
Hopefully not for long.
Senator.
Not that I like the other guy that much, but it's like, I'll take a Trump guy over her.
You're in Massachusetts. I think she'll get reelected. I think that's a safe bet to make.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know. There's been a lot of overturn lately. Like, there's a lot of the walk away going on there. Most definitely.
The best thing that could have happened in Massachusetts was a Indian from India, first generation, running against her.
I kind of like took interest in him a little bit because he was an independent, and he actually was married to the nanny girl, Fran Dresser. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I was like, all right, let me get this guy a chance. And like, he never said anything of substance. The whole thing was just like, oh, I'm a real Indian, she's a fake Indian. I'm like, oh, okay, dude, like that's a good introduction, like a good like, get into the arena with a punch kind of
Yeah,
line, but
it's a hook line.
exactly, and it's like, all right, what are your policies? Like, all right, screw it, I'm just gonna go with the Republican guy and try and crush Warren.
Well, I think that's one side effect to this whole Kavanaugh nonsense is that it is really charging the base for both Democrats and Republicans a month before the midterms. And so I think what you will see is I really do believe that this is going to charge more Republicans to get out and vote in the midterms than Democrats, though, because the Republicans are getting pissed. And you see like the congressperson, I forgot who it was, that was confronted in front of the elevator, and you had just these women. Yeah, you had just these women that are saying we're survivors. We believe. Well, he's not saying that you're not, and no one is saying that people that are actually victims should not be heard, and no one is saying that people that are actually traumatized by these instances should not be heard, and that the people that are actually guilty of these types of crimes should not be punished. But accusations alone.
I think we lost him.
I think we did. I think we did.
All right.
And
Their life, and that's what's really being lost here is that these are just allegations at this point, and you still need a burden of proof.
Definitely. And like what I'm seeing like on social media on my like just like the regular feed of like people I've known throughout the years and stuff, and it's like all like the super Democrat crowd seems like they're like, oh well, I think it's terrible that Kavanaugh is gonna be confirmed just because I experienced something, and now that he's accused, like he's automatically in that realm of like rapist. you know they're kind of justifying their own personal experience to why someone can't serve on the justice just for being accused, like not for being convicted, just for being accused.
right.
This perhaps is a rather heady take on the whole thing, as an aside, but I'd like to posit that this is a damning indictment of our education system and how, even including my generation and probably yourself, Ginger, that critical thinking, presumption of innocence, as well as investigative mental processes as far as how things are said, how things are taken, how stories change, and the timing of things all seems to have been. It's a damning indictment of the education system in that no one is pointing those out except for people who are being accused of sexism and how it's being reacted to. I should say. I'm sorry, I'm a little disjointed on that thought process, but it just seems to me that regardless of how you feel about it, no one is able to separate facts and feelings and uh, uh, investigative processes, regardless of what someone is saying. As far as I'm sorry, my train of thought is derailing. Y'all follow me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe somebody can clean that up. Sorry.
Well, I mean, it's really what it is about before. I mean, Paleo mentioned earlier that things are tribal, and
Absolutely.
really what it is people get angry at what they think they're supposed to get angry at, not because it like genuinely infuriates them, but because they think that that's what they're supposed to do. Because they think that their side is angry about it, therefore they should be angry about it. And I mean, I'm not saying that people are told what to think. I mean, there are obviously people in this country who are told what to think, but it's kind of like it's more about a team now instead of your own principles. It's all about my team, what my team thinks, what my team is angry about this. My team is your team is wrong, my team is right. That's really, I mean, it's just two big tents full of people.
Yeah, emoting is psychologically rewarding as well as so much less effort. Taking a step back and attempting to be objectively dispassionate regarding any topic when you're surrounded by it's trying to be a rock against a wave. The wave will move you, and you're trying to stand against the ocean, if that makes any sense. And not everyone wants to put out that kind of effort whenever it's just so much easier to be the rewarded member of the tribe for going along with the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Intellectually, it's the version of if everyone jumped off of a cliff.
I can tell you that now this may not be. Now people talk about the division being at an all-time high, and over the past couple of weeks, there's been talk about the possibility of another civil war. Of course, really, ever since Trump's been elected, we've been talking about the possibility. Actually, before Trump was elected, we were talking about another civil war in this country. I don't think it's quite to that level yet, but some things you see would certainly make it seem that way. For instance, Trump made a speech. I don't remember exactly when it was, but one of our people at Sarcasm and Liberty found a meme with Trump's actual words, and he added some dramatic effect to it, and we posted it, and it's gotten quite the response. Something that Trump actually said at a speech. He said, "A warning, and you better heed my words. If liberals take control of the House and/or Senate, we are done. Free speech gone. Trump impeached. No more SCOTUS appointments. Tax cuts gone. No wall. Guns taken. Never in history has midterm elections been so important. Vote or we're done." Now, I'm in a few pro-Trump groups on Facebook, and I was already in a couple just because, and I joined a couple more because I wanted to post this meme in those groups, and the response to this meme has been amazing. A couple of people actually talked about a civil war, and then everybody else was talking about, the usual vote red, this election is so important, red wave, all of that. It is amazing. And it's not just on the right. People on the left, there are a couple of feminists who made the rounds over the past week because of things that they said. One of them, a feminist author named Jill Filipovich, I'm not sure how you say her name. If I butchered it, I apologize. She put out a tweet last week. This was, I think, either Friday or Saturday. It was after the Kavanaugh hearing. She put out a tweet that said, "Divorce your Republican husbands." Why? Why? What is that going to accomplish, first of all? Divorce your Republican husbands. And then there was another person who is a professor at Georgetown named Christine Fair, who put out a tweet, and this one is a real doozy, let me tell you. Okay, here's what Christine Fair tweeted. She said, "Look at this chorus of entitled white men justifying a serial rapist's arrogated entitlement. All of them deserve miserable deaths, while feminists laugh as they take their last gasp. Bonus, we castrate their corpses and feed them to swine? Yes." That is just psychotic.
Depraved.
That is psychotic.
That's hateful.
That is psychotic. The worst part is that she didn't just say this in a rage. No, she actually typed this out and then hit the tweet button.
Yep.
That is just...
And she's someone of at least mild importance where she's in the public eye, obviously, when we're talking about her.
Is she a blue
college
check mark?
professor. Let me see.
Well,
I think
yeah,
she is.
I missed exactly like what she did.
She
What's her
teaches young people. She's a college professor. I mean, do you wait? Where's that tweet again? Is she verified?
Well, isn't
Yeah,
Ford a college professor too?
she's verified. She's verified.
Wow. Remember the good old days whenever we thought people like Noam Chomsky were the worst we'd ever encounter?
Oh, that saying
You
could
know what,
always
like,
be worse. It's never been more relevant
as
than
far
now.
as leftists go, like, Noam Chomsky's at least like a little bit
He-
more libertarian. Like,
He's the
but
sane
he's
one.
he's a
That's saying
lefty.
something.
Yeah, like he's like, I look at him as like not really that bad because like I can agree with him on some points, but then obviously when it gets into anything economical, I'm just like, yeah, fuck you, buddy. Oops,
Yeah,
sorry,
it's-
language.
I was going to say, do we
Yeah,
have parents watching?
I'm not sure if they're watching tonight. But yeah, people are losing their minds, and this really is getting bad. I mean, this really is getting insane. I mean, the stuff that people are saying on both sides, and I mean, like for
Tim
example, you
Pool
have people on the right who wait, what?
I'm sorry. I was just going to say Tim Pool had a video a few days ago called "A Cold Civil War," describing the situation, and I really think it fits it to a T. The invective and the hateful, like you were saying, it's all we're doing is piling up tinder. We're just piling up tinder, setting it next to gasoline. And just soaking it in gasoline. All we're waiting for is a spark. It feels like, and it's like everyone is just sitting around, standing in line to play with a match. I know that sounds kind of over, hyperbolic, but man,
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there have been talks of civil war before, and you see people on the right who will say something like, well, we know which side has all the guns. And now you have people on the left who are just, I mean, have you noticed that ever since Trump was inaugurated, the left has just been having this massive meltdown? And something that we talked about earlier is that they will latch on to anything that they think could stop Trump and stop the GOP. They're latching onto it. This is why Michael Avenatti has a presence on the left, because he's challenged Trump before, and people on the left have rallied behind him. I think if Trump was never president, we probably never would have ever known Michael Avenatti's name ever, to be honest with you.
I think partially it's because. Oh, sorry, am I stepping on paleo?
No,
No.
I think part of it is for 8 years, 2 generations have known 2 presidents, the evil Bush and Santa Claus Obama. And when Trump got elected, it's like when a kid finds out Santa Claus doesn't exist. Their entire world comes crashing down. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but it's the anger phase, and they've latched onto that angry phase of finding out that the world is not a fantasy, not their fantasy.
Right. Well, you're right. Now, speaking of Trump, there was one big thing that happened on Thursday that we did not hear about in the news. I mean, there were some articles written, there were a few tweets about it, but did you guys see that Trump signed a big spending bill on Thursday? This happened during the Kavanaugh hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not. Most of the stories break when I'm asleep, so it's like I'll miss like a lot of those like little tiny ones that slip between the cracks.
Yeah, and Matthew was saying something about some more Fourth Amendment violations, Patriot Act stuff, as well as the spending bill.
He signed an $854 billion spending bill. This keeps the government open until December 7th. Now, they had until this past Monday to get something to get a bill passed and signed. Otherwise, the government was going to shut down. One of the people with Sarcasm and Liberty, a gentleman who goes by the name Fritz, he has his own podcast called Fritzcast. If you haven't listened to it, I highly recommend. He's very good at what he does. He had said something during his podcast that he recorded after the hearing. He talked a little bit about the hearing, and then he talked about the spending bill. Now, there's one thing he said that I found interesting. He said that this is probably the first time a government shutdown has not creeped its way into the media. And really, he's right. There was no talk at all of the government shutting down. Back in March, when that $1.1 trillion omnibus was signed, for the weeks leading up to that, it was just everything was about government shutdown, government shutdown, government shutdown, government might shut down. What happens if the government shuts down? But this time around, there's been no talk about it at all. And there's really been no talk about the bill itself. $854 billion. $675 billion of that goes to the military. That's going to be a 2.6% active duty pay increase. And then they're also going to use it to pay for new F-35s, Black Hawk helicopters, Apache helicopters, and new battleships. And then the rest of it goes to things like Health and Human Services, the Department of Labor, and I think it also goes to the Department of Education. $854 billion, and no one uttered a word.
Yeah.
Well,
and another one. Hold on, let me just get this one out. Wasn't the 1 year anniversary of the Vegas shooting over this past weekend? I really didn't see anything go. Yeah, I really didn't see much going on with that, and it's like, especially in the 1 year anniversary of something that people kind of criticize about being banished from the media really quick, after being a big deal for 3 weeks and not really reaching a conclusion. So it's that was another thing that kind of flew under the radar. Not to bring up that whole subject, but just in general, more things that are being swept under the rug with this whole Kavanaugh distraction.
Well, here's a couple of things. First, when it comes to that spending bill, the Kavanaugh distraction, the Republicans actually need it right now to keep their base distracted from the spending bill, because the spending bill doesn't pay for the wall that they promised. That's not going to happen. That wall is never going to happen. I'm just going to put it out there so everyone knows you're never going to get a stupid wall across the border. It's just not happening. And the more that people chant for it, and the more that the people want it, it's not coming. They're not going to get it, and there's nothing budgeted for it along the border. This spending bill, I believe, also once again funds Planned Parenthood, which they said that wasn't going to happen. This is also a bill which is very similar to the omnibus, and Trump said he would never sign another bill like this again, and here he is once again signing the same type of bill. So they have to be distracted from that. And the one thing going right now is Kavanaugh. So this was a good distraction for them in order to keep their base fired up about something else that's kind of stupid. When it comes to the Vegas shooting, you're absolutely right. There's no new information there. There's nothing new that's come out about this whatsoever. And somebody had pointed it out, and they were absolutely right. We know more about Brett Kavanaugh's drinking in high school and college than we knew about the Vegas shooting after a year. So
yeah, that's crazy. And speaking of the wall, what did Trump say earlier about the wall? And you were saying something about 9/11. They wouldn't have gone over if we had a wall.
What?
Was I reading that correctly? It was something that was said.
I don't know. I didn't do that.
It was something that he said whenever he had visited the Flight 93 Memorial in Pennsylvania on 9/11, and he said, "Gosh, what was it that he said?" He said that what was the word that he used?
He said something to the effect of 9/11 hijackers wouldn't have been able to do what they did if they had a wall. And
what was it that he said? I know what you're talking about.
It's here's the thing: airports have walls.
they all came in on student visas anyway. It wouldn't have mattered. They were here legally right up until their visas expired.
Yeah, but it's like it just makes no sense where it's like, oh, a wall would have stopped them, but an airport full of TSA agents couldn't. Like, okay.
A wall stopping terrorists from coming in is like putting a wall up so that you stop kudzu from growing onto your property.
Okay, the thing that Trump said was that visiting the Flight 93 memorial had renewed his resolve for the wall and for. Now, the article had suggested that he would say something about immigration policy later on, but the main thing there is that he said that it renewed his resolve. A wall on the Mexican border would not have kept the Flight 93 hijackers out of the country. Like Otter said, they came in on student visas. And like you said, does Trump understand how planes work? Because they flew into this country. They did not.
Well, I mean,
They did not hop over a fence.
even if you're taking the whole plane physics out of it, you still have to get through the airport, through the TSA, metal detectors. Like that's a lot more complicated than just a bunch of stone sitting in on the grass.
Well, also you have to remember too is that a large portion of the people that are here in the United States illegally are here because they've overstayed visas. It's not that everyone that's here in the country illegally just walked across the border. They're the vast majority of people that are here illegally got here legally and just didn't renew a visa or just decided screw it costs too much and they're staying. So
you could stack stone a mile high on all the borders surrounding the entire U.S. and it will all be circumvented by a little piece of paper from the State Department that lets you walk in through the door. It's just absurd.
It's just absolutely ridiculous. Because here's the thing is that let's say if we look at the people that did come here legally that let's say overstayed their welcome that are still here. There's no tracking these people. There's no tracking them whatsoever. It's not that I'm saying that I want to track people. It's not that I'm saying that we should track people. But if they're making such a big stink over this, then the people that are in this country that came here legally, that overstayed their visas, then shouldn't those be the easiest people for them to find to deport? Shouldn't those be the easiest people for them to say, hey, your visa's expired, either renew it or go back to wherever you came from? That seems like that would be kind of easy.
Yeah.
Feelings don't care about your critical thinking.
I know.
Our government never makes anything easy. They make everything complicated.
And there's just no reason for that.
Amos.
You're on mute.
Scrappy.
We have a severe echo.
Hello.
I hear you now.
Okay.
What's going on?
It's going good. All I heard was something about illegal immigration before I joined.
Yeah, we were talking about you before you showed up.
Crap.
No, I'm kidding.
I've been had.
First,
all that happened.
Right, first of all, since Amos is here, a couple of announcements. Last week, Amos celebrated his 26th birthday. Happy birthday, buddy.
Crap. Oh, no. No. We're not talking about this. We're not doing this on the stream.
You want us to wish you a happy birthday?
No, don't do it. Just kidding.
Too late.
Okay, fine. Then we will talk about more important matters. One such important matter.
Ginger and I will be telling them to get off of our lawn.
One important matter, a man that I greatly admire, I don't know about the rest of you, but a man that I herald as a god amongst men, the Secretary of Defense, Jim Mattis, an envelope with ricin was intercepted. It was on its way to the Pentagon. It was intercepted. Well, 2 envelopes. One was addressed to Jim Mattis. Another one was addressed to somebody high up with the United States Navy. And then I believe there was also an envelope with ricin that was addressed to Donald Trump that the Secret Service had intercepted. Some guy.
White powder that was sent to Cruz to Senator Cruz too.
There was also mysterious white powder, which don't know what that was about. The last thing I saw was that there were 2 people who were exposed to it, and they were rushed to the hospital. There have been no
good
updates
stuff?
on that, which is strange. It's really weird because there have been no updates on that at all. It's so weird. I mean, you'd want to know if 2 people came in contact with a strange white powder and had to go to the hospital. Wouldn't you want to know what happened to them? I mean, I want to know what happened to them, if it was nothing or if they were poisoned with something. I mean,
at the very least, you'd expect an update from Ted Cruz's office Twitter.
There's nothing.
Well, like I said, it was probably just a misunderstanding. You know, a Mexican gang lord had to make a drop off to a guy named Cruz at the corner of an intersection. Ted just happened to be there. He said, "Hey, you Cruz?" He said, "Hey, you Cruz?" He's like, "Yes, I am." It's like, "Here."
Maybe,
I mean, it's in Texas.
Maybe Mitch McConnell is expanding his Senate cocaine business.
Cocaine Mitch. Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Now a person has been arrested as the perpetrator that sent the ricin. And I was reading, ricin comes from castor beans. So they're saying that this is where he got it from. He had
bacteria that grows on the outside of him, doesn't it?
Not entirely sure on that. I just
bacteria
read that they come from castor beans. But now, as far as why this person did it, Donovan Plank is with us in the live chat, and he said that all tests have come back negative on the Cruz thing. Thank you for that, Donovan. Appreciate that. I don't know. There's been no motive released as to why this guy, and I'm sure they're probably still going through all the questioning and interrogation. But this guy is a veteran of the Navy. He was in for 4 years, from '98 to 2002. Like I said before, things are getting crazy. I don't know what this person's political affiliation is, but people are just getting nuts.
Are we taking bets on if it's a leftist or a right winger?
I was reading. They said that he had posted a lot of like very Christian stuff on his Facebook, and he lives in Utah.
Ooh.
So probably think he might be a right winger, but then again, a right winger sending a poisonous substance to a Republican president, unless he's just one of those never Trump Republicans.
Yeah, like maybe he's like such a Christian fundamentalist that he can't stand that Donald Trump is looked at as the kind of more Christian candidate or whatever, because he is to a point. To a lot of people will be saying like, oh, you know, Jesus sent him and shit like that.
Paleo has a theory of that.
He's a third coming, you know.
The third coming? What? Where was the second?
Third coming? We haven't had a second coming yet.
Yeah,
unless I missed that one. I hope not.
No, wasn't the second coming when he resurrected the first time?
No. The second coming was supposed to be after that.
The second coming is supposed to be the rapture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're past the rapture. We're now on the third. Okay.
That's why I'm saying I hope I didn't miss that second coming, but
You're left behind.
Oh boy, great.
I'm talking to you from heaven.
Oh.
Where everyone is paleo.
Statement.
Heaven is paleo.
Yeah. There is one inside joke that we talk about that's called the Church of Trump, and what Otter had just described as, you know, someone who says that Trump was sent here by God. There are people who actually believe that, and we say that they belong to the unofficially named Church of Trump. There are quite a few church members in this country, and the things that they come up with are just wild.
Real quick, like I understand a lot of religious people. Like I'm not hugely religious myself, but I understand some people will be like, oh, like everything happens for a reason, and I understand that. But there's a borderline between thinking that way and complete idolatry of Trump being the chosen one.
What I find hilarious is how these same people years ago were lambasting and gnashing their teeth about how cult-like the following of Obama was, and how he was the Antichrist and all that happy good nonsense. Because he everyone was just leaping to his cause, and he was silver tongued, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now they have the blonde Obama, the New York business Democrat with an R next to his name, silver tongued, yada yada yada, and they just have no sense of irony or history. None.
Very good point. And yeah, these same people now. The thing I find so fascinating is how evangelicals rallied around Trump the way that they did, because you have a New York liberal who has made statements in the past that he was pro-choice. You also know his lifestyle was never a secret. The way that he lived, the way that he got around. And then all of a sudden, evangelicals are just rallying around this person as opposed to rallying around, say, someone like Ted Cruz.
Rand Paul,
Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
Who was the governor from? Oh, Bobby Jindal was another one, a very pro-evangelical Republican. They didn't rally around these guys. They rallied around Donald Trump. That is something I still find fascinating.
The black guy that ran the pizza chain also was a good.
Herman Cain.
Yeah, he would have been a good one for them to rally around too.
Well, they kind of.
My grandparents in Arizona, they're very Christian, very Republican, and when I called them, and I knew they were happy that Trump won, but when I found out that Trump was their pick, like from day one, I was like, that's kind of surprising, because like usually like you wouldn't condone any of Trump's behavior, like around you. You know what I mean? Like, cause they're very strict and uptight about a lot of things. So, like the first choice, like I understand being happy he won over Hillary, but first choice, like, what the hell's going on?
It does seem very odd that any of these evangelicals are supporting a guy who's now on his third marriage, who has cheated on his first two wives, and that's known that he did. With the third one, he paid to sleep with somebody. Who cares? But still, he cheated on the third wife as well. Someone who has made, so let's just say, inappropriate comments about his own daughter, and for them to get behind him just on those things alone just seems very, very odd. So I really don't understand it.
Have you guys heard of King David? Have you heard of Abraham? I'm using their logic now. I'm not necessarily defending.
Okay,
they're playing Trump up like essentially the most unlikely choice that God could use. So they're saying they would say, well, King David, the greatest king in among the Jews, basically saw a woman bathing, then sent her husband to the front lines to die so he could take her. Abraham, had concubines.
Well, here's the difference. And you're talking to somebody that was a youth director for 6.5 years. So I know this stuff inside and out. When it comes to like King David or even Solomon, who had 300 wives and 700 concubines. These were all men at that time who married these women first or had them as concubines, which was legal at the time. This wasn't, people having affairs. Trump literally had affairs with women that were not his concubines or his wives. So to try and to equate the two just really doesn't work. And it's a stretch.
Playing Mr. Steal Your Girl, King David over here. That's just, I mean, I'm not trying to necessarily equate them 100%, but you got to understand that the evangelical community really likes to rally around sort of the least likely choice that shows the smallest glimmer of faith. And because also they're the Republican, one pastor gets behind it and they think, yeah, like this is like his moment to be quote unquote used by God,
And yet that same crowd is
the logic doesn't have to make sense, by the way, guys. It's just bad theology.
I can understand how people would think that. I wouldn't really go with that as sound, but yeah.
Yeah, these are the same people that were the first ones in line to throw Senator Larry Craig under the bus after he was found out to be a homosexual. Yeah, and he'd been one of the pillars of how they got things done in the Senate.
Well, let me bring this back to where we started, though, is that these same people are now saying that Brett Kavanaugh is a man of God and that we need to pray for Brett Kavanaugh because, he has been chosen for this time. And I know that, you'll hear this from churchgoers a lot is, oh, this person has been chosen for a time such as this. And, God will use them the way that they're intended. And so now they're rallying behind this because Trump picked Kavanaugh and Trump is placed in his position because God placed him there. So because of that, by default, Kavanaugh must be used by God and must be, chosen by God for this position.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think we all need to get Trump to put out a tweet about sarcasm and liberty that everyone should watch this live stream.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Right after
now,
he
argue...
sends out a tweet about how Mattis puts ricin on his cornflakes every morning.
Well, we've at least been blowing up on Facebook lately. We've been killing it this last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we are getting very close to 5,000.
Yes, we are.
Now, this is just my own personal opinion, but I would argue that Brett Kavanaugh is much more godly than Donald Trump. If you look at Brett Kavanaugh, family man, 2 kids, very, very Catholic. Well, I guess now we know that he has skeletons in his closet because he used to throw ice at people. Did you guys see that story?
Yeah.
How ridiculous was
By
that?
the way, guys, just because Kavanaugh's a family man, just understand this. Trump is a multiple family man. So he's a great family man.
That makes him 3 times better than Kavanaugh.
At least 3. At least 3.
At least 3. Right. No. But
you're going to hell for that one.
I cannot believe there's some guy for MSNBC who he put up a tweet the other day that he said that there was, I guess he found an old Yale classmate of Kavanaugh's who said that there was a time where he lifted up a keg up over his head. Who cares? Yeah. The guy was like 22 years old. Who cares if he lifted a keg over his head? Hey. Oh no, he lifted a keg up over his head.
Hey guys, that just tells us the guy has good upper body strength.
Yeah.
That does not matter. I don't care. I don't care that he drinks beer. So does everybody else. Come on.
I don't.
I don't really, but a lot of people do. A lot of people in America drink beer. Come on.
Trump doesn't drink beer.
Yes.
No.
Trump drinks Trump.
Trump drinks Diet Coke.
Yeah,
But, you know,
we
too much.
hey, we all failed Ronald Reagan. We were never the generation that didn't need a crutch.
yeah,
Trump
Yeah,
drinks his own greatness.
yeah,
That's
that's
what he
one thing.
drinks.
Trump has come out on more than one occasion saying he does not drink alcohol. I think it was his older brother who was an alcoholic who died, and that had an impact on him. And I can relate to that because you know, I had a similar situation. I had an older brother who passed away because he drank a bit too much.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I can relate to that too. Like I don't drink at all. Like, you know, maybe once in a while I'll go out to the bar and like have like one or two drinks and socialize with people I haven't seen for a while, but that's about it.
so
I don't know.
So our
This
conclusion is Trump is more of a family man than Brett Kavanaugh, but Kavanaugh's more of a godly man than Trump.
he's more of a godly man, but he also drinks beer, and he
Throws ice.
supposedly he threw ice at someone at a UB40 concert, and the police were called. He wasn't arrested, but the police were called.
Well,
There has been
that's because he was without sin, so he cast the first stone or ice.
oh, good
Ooh.
point. Good point.
I mean,
that's-
if we're not careful, Trump is going to throw ice at a bunch of illegal immigrants.
wow, that was a bad pun.
I know. That's why I did it.
I'm just picturing all of these people that are against Kavanaugh stopping their kids from watching Frozen now.
Someone meme Elsa throwing, doing her "Let It Go," but with Kavanaugh's face.
That's a great idea, Michael.
And
you
it's
want to take a crack at that?
it's got to be all like the accusers too that he's like throwing ice at.
I mean, I could probably do it on detail, but I don't really know the reference. I've never seen Frozen, thankfully. I do not have
Liar.
kids, so
Liar.
I have not. I have not.
Or Kavanaugh's face on Dr. Freeze. Batman.
All right,
Hey,
we'll watch
you need to
Frozen.
Over Arnold's face, or if you're old school, the '60s Batman.
Okay, it's Mr. Freeze, not Dr. Freeze. Come on, man.
Pardon me.
You're killing me here.
I'm not. I'm. Yeah. Okay.
Killing me, man.
I'm a little out of my wheelhouse with my nerdiness. So, as far as comedy,
you know the saying though: the geek shall inherit the earth.
yes.
Right.
Do you think it would be more like that green amorphous cloud on Futurama?
And you said I had a bad pun there.
I had to add that one in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this FBI investigation started last Friday. So it absolutely has to end by this coming Friday, since they said it was only going to be 7 days. Oh, Amos, you're going to say something?
So, just for the sake of the stream, in my line of work, I meet a lot of different people, and I actually met an FBI special agent today, a retired one.
Oh.
And yeah, he just I basically asked him about what were apparently about the 6 background checks and the whole thing about he basically, in a very apolitical conversation we had, basically just agreed it's just a very horrible misuse of resources to investigate, because they're most likely going to find nothing, and they're not going to recommend really anything. It's, if anything, it's from how I saw it, how he was saying it is basically yeah, it's pretty much the same thing we've all heard, but it was just kind of cool to hear it from someone who's actually worked for them. He basically just said, he talked about a little bit about polygraphs and stuff. He gave me a story basically regarding just where how polygraphs give you all sorts of false positives, how they can be very easily thrown around, but they're not admissible in a court of law. And Yeah, just in all the different ways people can actually manipulate them. Besides how Dr. Ford her, what was it? She like had a funeral the day she got her polygraph done or something.
Well, she doesn't know if it was that day or the day after.
It was, but
the
I
same
mean,
day as her.
he just talked about how there's all sorts of ways people can give false positives, whether they are just, if you're talking about something close to the topic, like let's say if I asked, if let's say you got in trouble for Grand Theft Auto, like you actually committed Grand Theft Auto, but I'm asking you about drug trafficking. Well, I'm going to be asking you questions regarding the legality of those things, legality, just doing illegal stuff, and you're going to you might not be actually lying. Have you trafficked drugs? Well, no. Have you committed a crime? Well, no. And it's like, well, all of that would raise your overall emotions to just make it look like you're lying the whole time. When in reality, you're not, per se. Sometimes people will even put like a thorn in their shoe. Basically, it's in a position where they can walk around just fine, but if they position their foot just right, they can essentially make them like raise their stress levels to give false positives on a polygraph. Where when you're being asked, if I ask you what's your name, and you say your name, it gives a false positive. And then when you're actually lying, what's that?
I thought that was only in Ocean's 11.
No, he pretty much just said like it's been done before. But basically, if you can just like make the readout constantly fluctuate during the entire polygraph, talk, they're not gonna. They'll know that you're obviously telling the truth on some things, but they won't know if you're actually lying because you have such an elevated stress level. So that's just, but he just agreed. He just pretty much just said, yeah, it's a gross misuse of government resources. Like it's just pointless. It's not what the FBI is there for, and it's just, if anything, I'm seeing it as a sort of it's like it's just statism, I guess, at its best. People just immediately assume that if something is happening in government, we need to send the FBI on it, no matter how stupid it is. It's just the state, the state, the state. The FBI will take care of it. They'll investigate here, they'll investigate there. Well, the CIA must. We just think of this, and we don't think of like just straight up like this has already been resolved. There's, he pretty much said it's there's two losers in this. The accusers are obviously losing because they're not credible. They're just, and nothing is making sense. But Kavanaugh's losing too. Whether or not they actually go through with the nomination, he actually gets in or not, it's still a stain on him. And it's pretty typical of the left, I think, where it's just like you want to walk in and just wreck the whole thing. It's like instead of trying to achieve one goal or another, it's just go in, set up a situation where everyone's losing. Just destroy it all. Just destroy his reputation, make these women look like just, opportunists, and everyone loses. The Democrats are going to suffer in the midterms, but then Republicans are going to look like however they're going to look, and the public, the court of public opinion with how they're dealing with Kavanaugh.
Right.
So,
well, I think what you were talking about, the midterms. I think with this situation, especially if Kavanaugh doesn't get confirmed, and then we're going to be moving into another situation where Trump's going to appoint someone else, and it's going to be up for a vote. And this goes for both sides. It's really going to drive up the midterms even more because, this is such a big issue. Most times midterms people really don't care about. They go to the presidential elections because they're more important in the long run. But, with this is actually of big importance, or at least they're drumming it up to be as a big importance on the media. So, I think it's definitely a strategy thing for the Democrats. Like, we really need to fire up our base for the midterms and create this big debacle, whether we win or lose.
Well, one thing that I've noticed is that one thing that the Democrats have done over these past couple of weeks is they've managed to unite the right, which is the last thing that they wanted to do. But the way that the right has rallied, and you can kind of credit Lindsey Graham with this too, because over the past week he's just been on a roll. I mean, there was his epic rant during the hearing, and then there was a couple of interviews that he did where he
on
said
CNN. I don't give a shit.
where he says some pretty crazy things. Yeah, he said that.
On live
And then
TV.
he quoted Democrat, what's his name, James Carver or James
Carville.
Carville.
Yeah.
Where he was talking about Bill Clinton's accusers, and he said this is what happens when you walk through a trailer park with a $100 bill. Lindsey Graham did an interview where he said that same thing. So the right are rallying behind Kavanaugh, they're rallying behind Lindsey Graham, and they're united. And if this keeps up for the next 34 days, the right's going to have a big turnout at the midterm elections. And that is the last thing the Democrats wanted, because they're already the minority. But if they end up losing seats, especially in the Senate, that's bad for them. That's very bad, because they are going to be practically powerless. I mean, they pretty much are already, but they're going to be even more powerless if the GOP gains more numbers in Congress.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing to watch.
Now, do you also think with the whole unite? I'm not gonna say unite the right, because that brings up a whole different category. But the right united.
Does that trigger us?
Yeah. Well, it might trigger some people. We might get some hate mail out of that, like saying like, "Oh, these guys are Nazis now."
Tribalist coalescing is what you're looking for.
In the case of Jenkins, go over to Gary Johnson because their candidate. I don't know if anything's changed since the last time we talked about it, but the Republican candidate didn't seem to be like anyone. And
I haven't really looked at that race. I have not looked at that race at all.
I haven't either, but just bringing up the subject of that, because it's like I'm voting for the Republican, even though all the choices are crappy, so it really doesn't matter. But it's like a lot of times in a lot of states, it's like you got to go Republican, even if you're like a libertarian, just to stop like the Democrats from pulling their bullshit. Because it's like most like unaffiliated people are even sick of the Democrats crap. I mean, they're sick of all the crap, but lesser evil crap. Kind of lost my train of thought right quick. I was going somewhere with that. Yeah, roll it back around. I kind of lost my train of thought, wrapping myself around it too much.
Well, one thing I want to point out is that this falls onto another one of Trump's big campaign promises he's not going to be able to keep, which is draining the swamp, because he's pushing for Republicans to maintain seats. He's pushing for more Republicans to go into Congress, which isn't draining anything. And they're just kind of like shuffling the different pieces on the chessboard here, just moving people from one position to another. No one's really leaving the swamp. And so I think that is a like I said, another campaign promise that's not going to be kept, because you don't hear so much of them talking about draining the swamp anymore. They're pretty much just keeping the status quo, especially once again looking at the budget.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm gonna finish this up because I kind of just wanted to wrap that point up. So with that, with a lot of independents and like libertarians and such going to vote for Republicans in other states to stamp out the Democrats, probably. Do Republicans also go libertarian when he is a more viable option to beat the Democrat in New Mexico?
I'll have to look at the race to know an answer on that. The last time we talked about this a couple of months ago, and we talked about how the Republican was a no-name, and the outlook was that he was going to have absolutely no traction in that race. And Gary Johnson and the Democrat senator who's there now. Yeah, he's the former governor. He has name recognition. The Democrat senator has name recognition. New Mexico isn't necessarily a blue state; it's a battleground state.
Yeah.
So who knows? I'll have to look at that race, and I have not looked at it since we talked about it. To be honest with you.
Yeah. Well,
so much stuff.
If you live in New Mexico, you should. If you're a Republican listener of our 5 or 6 watching right now, and you live in New Mexico and you're thinking of voting for the Republican guy, just vote Gary Johnson. Give it a shot. He's kind of an idiot, but he might beat the Democrat.
Kind of.
Such.
Well, here's the thing: if these Trump supporters actually wanted to drain the swamp, then they would be voting for libertarians. They would be voting for third parties. Otherwise, you're just getting the same old, same old.
Oh
yeah. Well, they're not going to do that because of libertarian opinion on things like immigration are very different from the GOP opinion on immigration. So, I mean, one of the biggest issues that... Do what?
I was going to say, you mean immigration policy between libertarians too?
Well, I mean, one of the biggest dividers between Republicans and libertarians is the immigration issue. There are some other things, like as far as like the outlook on like law enforcement, war on the drug war, things like that. But immigration is one of the biggest ones. So that's really interesting. Before we go, one last thing to talk about. We all got the alert on our phone today. The brand new presidential alert emergency broadcast system was tested today. We all got a text from Mr. President Trump.
Just wanted to say, today I suffered textual assault. I am a survivor of textual assault. Hashtag me too.
Well,
did he grab you by the texty?
Oh God! Oh, this is going south.
I had to.
Now, on my own social media, now I have a very healthy mix of both left and right, both left and right, both conservative and progressive on my social media. I will say that it was very interesting today to see the number of Democrats and progressives who are all of a sudden worried about government intrusion because Donald Trump was able to send an alert directly to their phone. I would just like to say that it's kind of funny when people don't have a problem with government intrusion until they're inconvenienced by it. Then all of a sudden they have a problem with it. Then all of a sudden they care about privacy. Funny how that happens.
Maybe Trump did that on purpose with the whole Kavanaugh thing going on, knowing how he is about the 4th Amendment, just to troll everyone.
So where were you guys when this happened, by the way?
I was at work.
I was asleep. I didn't even see the notification. It didn't pop up on my past thing, so I don't know if it's...
So
I was asleep and it woke me up.
For Mike and Paleo, like, were you guys around other smart devices that also went off?
I was at work,
and
it's kind of it's kind of annoying that about 25 phones went off at the same time in the middle of an emergency room.
Oh,
so
that must have been really hectic.
Wow.
That's something out of a nightmare, like that pager thing in the Siege. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, where everyone's pager's going off.
Pager, is that some sort of like?
That was in the long. That's in the long ago, in the before time.
One of those ancient devices.
That was the guy that stood out on the corner.
Because I was in someone's house who had tablets and phones all going off, with my phone going off, and it's the first Wednesday of the month, and it was close to 1:00 in the afternoon. Minnesota tests all towns test their tornado sirens.
Mhm.
So that we have that going off plus this.
Oh God, love
Very
government.
amazing. Yep.
Yeah, I think the
Absolutely
worst I
amazing.
get is, they're like constructing the road like right outside my house, and it's like, I work nights, so I sleep during the day, so anything that's going on during the day will wake me up like that.
Wow. Amazing. Hopefully by Friday. Do you think that they would? How much time in advance do they have to schedule a confirmation vote? Is it 72 hours, 48 hours? Because I don't know if they've scheduled the confirmation vote. I don't think they've announced it yet, but they're waiting for this FBI report, which has become any day now. It could come tomorrow. It could be Friday.
Have they done the committee confirmation vote?
Yes.
And then okay, so
Yep.
There's all kinds of Robert's rules crap they've got. So first the report has to be distributed, and then they have to do motions and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Well, after the emergency alert today, can't they just vote by text?
Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't
No,
that be
because of
great?
the Chinese hackers.
Yeah, sure.
Because
Yeah,
Russia will
well-
hack all the votes, and there will be 103 votes for Kavanaugh.
Okay. Genuinely important question here, guys. Would the triggering collapse into a singularity if Trump used the new presidential text system to send everyone a picture of Pepe the Frog?
That would be amazing. That would be epic.
Pepe
Just
wearing a
would
Supreme
win.
Court robe.
If Trump were to do that, he would single-handedly win the meme war. The meme war would be finished, and Trump would have won.
He would
Single-handedly.
single-handedly trigger the nation all at once.
Yes. Well, I mean, today he basically owned all the libs. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
That would be going back to the ship and memeing it from orbit just to be sure.
Space Force.
yeah. But at some point, we might have more justice, or not, and then Trump would have to nominate somebody else, who would probably be Amy Coney Barrett, and then we'll be doing this all over again.
Wait,
But
sorry, who?
I saw it.
A woman?
Just
Yeah, Amy
imagine
Barrett.
just imagine if every one of Trump's tweets came on emergency alert, and like it got to the point where it's like they built like loudspeakers in every street corner that like orated.
Wow,
every
that's not
message.
1984 at all.
Yeah.
It's like there's no way you can escape it. It's like you can throw your phone in the woods and you'll still hear the speakers.
I instead of sending a picture of Pepe, he should just send a picture of Big Brother from the movie, and just have it appear on everyone's phone simultaneously.
That would not only trigger the left, but it might even trigger everyone else too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it would. Well, there are a lot of references to 1984 today.
Yep.
Because of that. But
whenever we did that pre 2 years ago, we were the loons.
Right.
And John
I don't
McAfee
know.
said
We
something
might
about it tapping into some part of your phone that can access like this, that, and the other thing, like basically every feature in your phone.
Yeah, wasn't that
That was John McAfee. That is
Yeah.
an entirely different discussion. That is a long discussion. But if you want to check out John McAfee's Twitter timeline, he explains it there. I'm not that tech savvy, so I'm not going to try to dive into it. But
yeah,
it is.
Everyone's
figured I give it a brief mention with the 1984, and I mean, I don't want the government to have access to my camera, but it's like if they are watching, they're basically looking at my forehead for like 10 hours straight.
Think of it this way though. If you really look at 1984, we actually have the government is actually better than that government today. The access they have to our system is actually better than what they portrayed in 1984.
Well, I mean, he wrote that back in the 1950s. I mean,
1948.
Well, yeah, 1948, yeah. And he was talking about cameras and stuff. I mean, I just started watching the movie a little bit, and I could just kind of see there were blind spots you could hide in and do things and whatever. Yeah, you don't really have that with these guys.
Are you watching the old black and white, or the one with the guy from V for Vendetta?
That one. I'm watching the newer one.
And I mean, never mind even the government. It's like, there can't be anything going on in public at all without 5 people bringing out their cell phones, and then it's going to be all over YouTube and all the, if it's big enough, the media channels will pick it up and all that. So it's like, there's no privacy in this generation at all.
If you took someone, what's scary is if you took someone from, and just showed them, someone who had from the 60s or something, who had only maybe read 1984, showed them that movie, showed them Enemy of the State, and showed them there was another one I had just to tip my tongue. Anyway, it's like someone used 1984 and Enemy of the State as guides instead of warnings. Oh, Brave New World.
Yep.
I feel like I should seek counseling or check myself in somewhere for even positing such a theory or such an idea that we're living in that kind of world. But man, you start checking boxes and it starts, I don't know.
I mean, I don't think it's to the extreme of the movie fantasy or nightmare, I should say, of it. But it's definitely taken steps in that direction, and technology is getting better, so it's making it that much easier. And, like John McAfee said, that presidential alert system means they could, and you kind of already noticed that they can, come and access your phone and do all that from, a database because everything's connected. You're, using a service that's radiating energy from the sky, basically. So,
well, we've all basically bugged ourselves. If somebody wanted to listen, that's all it takes.
Exactly.
All right.
They're listening right now.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like, NSA has joined the call.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do we got? A couple of viewers right now. One of them is definitely an FBI agent.
Yeah. It's the cartoon where the guy's holding up the sign in front of the dead webcam on his laptop. Where it's like you're special or something, and his friend says, "There's no one there." Yeah, there is.
You ever see
the NSA conspiracy theory?
Yeah. So, for those unfamiliar, he writes a newsletter where he talks about crackpot government conspiracies, and he has 5 subscribers, and he goes through all this effort for his 5 subscribers. And one of them's actually an FBI agent or some kind of agent of some sort, and he ends up being right about one of his crackpot theories, and they end up trying to kill him. So.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of ironic that we're wondering if Brett Kavanaugh is going to be confirmed because he thinks it's perfectly okay for the government to do these kinds of things. But he might be our next associate justice. He might not. That's still yet to be known. before we
He
go,
approves.
Amos has an announcement he wants to make. Do what?
Well, it's okay.
I was just saying he approves of wiretapping for cops.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, well, I sent it out to you guys, but basically, I'm going to be on a live stream on Saturday with crap. They're called. Let me look them up. Sorry.
You want a live stream? You don't know what it's called?
No, I do know. It's just I forgot the exact. Okay. Wait, they just had a stream the other day. So they're called the Lost Eurasians. It's basically a stream for Hapa, half Asian, half white people. They have a lot of guests on talking about different things, and I'll be on Saturday. Oh, here we go. Yeah, the Lost Eurasians. I guess you guys know about Hapa Supremacy. They were on there. They've had some of their people on there. And then on Monday, I'll be on Hapa Supremacy's channel again for their Hapa month. So just so you guys know, October is Hapa Heritage Month.
Nice,
Wow,
man.
that's
Nice.
amazing. That
Hapa History Month. We're going to be talking all about Dean Cain. I'm just kidding.
Well, he was Superman, so I'm okay with that.
Half of me feels ostracized.
Half you feel so. Exactly.
wow. All right. Well, if you want to tune in Saturday to watch that, you can watch that.
Or Monday to tune into Hapa Supremacy, and I'll be on that one. So lots of streams
or
coming
Monday as well. You can get lots of Amos if you want lots of Amos. So,
Can't get enough of me.
right. But that's all we have for tonight. We went for night. But by the end of the week, we should know more about Kavanaugh, hopefully. We'll be back here again next Wednesday, just like always. Until then, we'll see you next time. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.
Nice.